What if the most dangerous man on the criminal internet wasn't trying to steal from you? What if he was trying to clean it up, just not the way anyone asked him to? There is a version of this story where Max Butler is a hero, where he looked at a lawless, underground, bleeding, ordinary people dry by the millions and decided someone needed to impose order on it. There is a version where the government created him, used him, threw him away, and left him with no path forward except the one they had trained him to walk. There is a version where the man who went to prison for 13 years was, in some complicated and unresolvable way, doing what he had always done, trying to fix a system that no one else would touch. That version is not entirely wrong. Neither is the version where nearly 2 million people had their credit card numbers bought and sold on a marketplace he built and ran. Both are true. That's what makes this story worth telling. San Francisco, August 2006. Inside a Tenderloin apartment, old carpet, stale air, fans cooling hardware that has been running for hours, Max Butler sits in the dark with 6 monitors casting blue light across his face. 3 in the morning, cold coffee. By morning, he will own every carding forum in the English-speaking world. Not a bank, not a government, not a single ordinary civilian. He is going after criminals, 6,000 of them organized across 4 underground forums that together handle 2 million stolen credit cards and $86 million in fraud every single year. One man, 48 hours. And the only thing standing between him and complete control of the criminal internet is a 4-character password that one administrator reused twice. Not one of his 6,000 targets will be able to call the cops. But how does a man with a federal record, a man who once patched Pentagon servers out of principle, who once worked as an FBI informant, who once slept on a friend's couch because the government left him no path forward, end up here, in this apartment, holding the keys to the entire criminal internet? The answer begins in Idaho, in 1972, with a boy and a radio. Meridian, Idaho, 1,972. A small suburb outside Boise, the kind of town where streets are wide and yards are kept, and children ride bikes until the streetlights come on. A good place to grow up if what you need is order. A boy grows up here, smart in the way that makes adults uncomfortable, the kind that sits too quietly, notices too much, asks questions that aren't on the syllabus. He takes apart the family radio one afternoon when he is 9 or 10. Not to break it, to understand how it works. He puts it back together. It works. He probably puts it back better than before. His name is Max Butler. For the first 14 years of his life, everything looks like a dream. Then his parents divorce. His father moves away. Something shifts. Not loudly, no single dramatic moment, just a slow recalibration, the way a compass needle drifts when you bring it near a strong enough magnet. The direction it points changes, and everything you thought you were navigating toward is suddenly a few degrees off. Max is still smart, still curious, but the thing he was looking for, belonging, structure, a place that makes sense, he can no longer find it where he used to. College lasts exactly 1 year before a conviction for assault puts him in state prison. He gets out in 1995, picks up part-time tech support work, and then the way some people find religion, or music, or the one specific thing that makes the noise quiet down, he finds the internet. IRC channels, underground forums, communities of people who understood systems the way musicians understand instruments, not as tools to be used, but as structures to be known from the inside. For the first time in Max Butler's life, he belongs somewhere. He moves to California, becomes a sysadmin, builds a respected security tool called Arachnids, used by researchers, cited by professionals, by every measure available to him, one of the good ones. That belief that his skills make him not just capable, but authorized to act, is exactly what gets him into trouble. Because what happens when one of the good ones decides the rules don't move fast enough and takes matters into his own hands? Defcon, Las Vegas, July 1998. In 1998, Max discovers a critical vulnerability running across thousands of US government servers. He could file a report and wait. That is the correct procedure. But his instinct tells him the vulnerability is open right now, today, and that waiting for a bureaucratic process to close it is an unacceptable delay. He patches the Pentagon's servers himself without authorization, posts the fixes publicly, and notifies administrators nationwide. He genuinely believes he has done something good. The Air Force investigator who traces it back to him sees it differently. The FBI does not arrest him immediately. Instead, they make him an offer. The agency that should have put him away looks at Max Butler, sees what his brain can do, and decides there is a more useful arrangement. Become an informant. Help us identify dangerous hackers. In return, we go easier on you. Max says yes. They send him to Defcon in Las Vegas, thousands of people who live exactly where Max lives, in the space between systems and the people who build them. His job: move through the crowd, earn trust, report back. At Defcon, he meets a lawyer named Jennifer Granick. She specializes in defending hackers. He hires her on the spot, which is either a sign of excellent judgment or the foreshadowing of a man who already knows exactly where his life is heading. The FBI operation doesn't last long. By 2000, Max pleads guilty to unauthorized access to Defense Department computers. Judge James Ware hands down an 18-month federal sentence. He goes in as a man who patched government servers out of principle. He comes out as something harder to categorize. When Max walks out in 2002, the security consulting world that might have taken him in has closed its doors. A federal conviction in cybersecurity is not a footnote. It is a wall. He writes about this period himself in a sentencing memorandum filed years later. The words are plain and quiet and somehow worse for it. I was homeless, staying on a friend's couch. I couldn't get work. The man who built arachnids, who patched Pentagon servers out of principle, who the FBI considered skilled enough to recruit as an informant, sleeping on a couch in California with no income and no clear path forward. The FBI gave him a criminal record and a skill set, then left him with nothing to use either one on. And what transforms a man the government discarded into the most dangerous operator the criminal internet has ever seen? San Francisco. 2003. That's when Chris Aragon walks into his life. Aragon is not a hacker. He is not drawn to systems for their own sake, not interested in the patient pleasure of finding a flaw in something everyone else assumed was solid. He is a former bank robber who, with the practical clarity of a man who has assessed his options and chosen the most efficient one, made the decision to move his operations into the digital world. Better margins, no die packs, no silent alarms wired to the floor. For a man who thinks about crime the way an accountant thinks about cost-benefit ratios, the migration from physical to digital is not a moral question. It is an optimization. The arrangement they build together is almost elegant in its simplicity. Max acquires a high-powered antenna, the kind that can pull wireless signals from distances most people assume are safely private, and stations himself near financial institutions and restaurants where point-of-sale systems transmit card data without adequate encryption. He intercepts the signals, pulls the numbers out of the air, hands them to Aragon. Aragon's people encode them onto blank cards. Aragon's wife moves the purchased goods on eBay at a slight discount, attractive enough to sell quickly, ordinary enough to raise no flags. Clean, distributed, hard to trace. For a man who was sleeping on a couch 6 months ago, it solves the immediate problem. Max pays rent, buys coffee, lives like someone with options. Somewhere in Chicago, a woman sits down with her monthly bank statement and finds 3 charges she doesn't recognize. 2 from a sporting goods store in a state she has never visited. 1 from an electronics retailer 3 time zones away. She calls her bank. The bank reverses the charges and opens a fraud case. Nobody ever explains to her what happened or how. She'll never know Max Butler's name. Max is not built for small operations. By 2004, he is looking at the underground world around him with the particular attention of a man watching something everyone else is looking at without seeing. A vacuum. Enormous and widening by the day. October 2004. Max is at his computer when the news breaks. Operation Firewall. FBI coordinated sweep across the US and Europe. Shadow Crew and Carter Planet, the 2 largest underground forums on the planet, gone overnight. Servers seized. Administrators in handcuffs. For law enforcement, A massive win. For the underground, chaos. Thousands of carters with nowhere to go, no trusted marketplace, no way to verify who is real and who is a federal agent with a fake profile and a recording device. The forums that took years to build the reputation systems, the vouching networks, the trust architecture erased in one night. What's left is silence and paranoia. Max watches the forums go dark. He doesn't see destruction. He sees a market with no supplier, a community with no home, an entire criminal ecosystem desperate for exactly what he can build. There is only one problem. How do you convince thousands of anonymous criminals, people who just watched their world collapse because of infiltrators, to trust a brand new forum run by someone they don't know? You can't advertise. You can't vouch yourself. You can't cold message a carter and say, "Hey, come join my new marketplace. I promise it's safe." Trust in this world isn't given. It's earned over years. And Max doesn't have years. He sits with the problem. Most people conclude it's unsolvable, build slowly, one member at a time. Max reaches a different conclusion entirely. He doesn't need to earn trust. He needs to make himself the only option. And the way to do that is not to build something bigger than the competition. It's to make sure the competition no longer exists. Carter's Market goes live quietly in June 2005, a seed planted in dead soil. For now, nothing. But what he plans next has never been done before in the history of cybercrime. Nobody has ever thought to turn the tools of hacking not against banks, not against governments, but against criminal infrastructure itself. Underground forums were considered neutral ground. Max looks at neutral ground and sees the most valuable target on the board. 4 targets: DarkMarket, TalkCash, Scandinavian Carding, the Vouched. The largest concentration of active carters on the planet. Administrators who think their security is solid because they've survived law enforcement before, they've never had to survive someone like Max. How do you take down 6,000 criminals in 48 hours when none of them can call the police? The 16th of August, 2006. The Tenderloin. He books a small apartment in the Tenderloin, stocks up on coffee he won't finish, sits down in front of his monitors with a very specific plan for each target. DarkMarket first. The biggest, the most protected. Its administrator has made one mistake. A single reused password. 4 characters. MSR 206. The kind of mistake that looks harmless until someone who thinks the way Max thinks finds it. That's all he needs. The Vouched falls through a compromised digital certificate pulled from an administrator's personal email account. A thread so thin it shouldn't work. It works. TalkCash and Scandinavian Carding SQL injections. Precise, clean, an attack that takes minutes when you know exactly where to push. One by one, across 30 hours of continuous work, the forums open up. He pulls everything: user databases, passwords, private messages, every conversation between every member going back years. Moves it all onto his own servers. Then, with the same quiet efficiency he does everything, he wipes the originals. Not disables, not damages. Wipes. The forums don't go offline with an error message. They simply cease to exist. Years of infrastructure. Thousands of relationships. Entire criminal careers built on reputation gone in the time it takes to execute a few final commands. 6,000 criminals wake up that morning to a single mass email. The forums they depended on, gone. Their accounts, their histories, their passwords migrated to one place, Carter's Market. Run by one man. The email is not apologetic, not aggressive, matter of fact in the way that only someone with complete confidence delivers news. Welcome. There is now one forum. This is it. Your old credentials still work. Somewhere out there, men with actual weapons in their nightstands are reading this email and having no idea how to respond. Some are furious. Some are threatening. All of them, eventually, grudgingly, with no better option in front of them, log in. Because Max was right. The easiest way to make people trust you is to make sure there's nowhere else to go. He gets up from his monitors, refills his coffee. Outside, San Francisco is starting its day. He has just restructured the entire criminal internet in the time it takes most people to finish a project report. He almost lets himself feel satisfied. Here's what nobody in the criminal underground knew yet. One of the 4 forums Max just destroyed, DarkMarket, wasn't just a criminal forum. It was already a trap. Because months before Max's attack, a federal agent had been quietly building something inside DarkMarket. And when Max wiped those servers, he handed that agent exactly the opening he needed. DarkMarket, FBI Field Office, Pittsburgh. Months before Max's attack, an FBI agent named Keith Malarski had been doing something that requires a specific kind of patience most people don't have: becoming someone else. His cover identity, a Polish spammer named Master Splinter, experienced, trustworthy, the kind of operator other criminals feel comfortable around. Malarski builds Master Splinter the slow way, showing up consistently, transacting reliably, being the kind of member that others gradually stop thinking about because he is simply there, simply dependable. By the time Max wipes DarkMarket's servers, Malarski has become a moderator. When the forum goes dark, he moves immediately. He approaches DarkMarket's British administrator, a Carter known as Jealousy, with a pitch almost identical to the one Max used to build his own empire. Your forum is in ruins. Your users are scattered. You can't fight off Iceman's DDoS attacks, and you know it. Let me take over. I know how to build something that can withstand this. Jealousy says yes. Washington says yes. And just like that, the FBI is running a criminal forum. DarkMarket comes back online within days. The users who hadn't migrated to Carter's market filter back in. Now there are 2 dominant forces in the English-speaking criminal underground. One run by Iceman, one run by a federal agent. Both of them understand that eventually, one will destroy the other. What follows is one of the strangest standoffs in the history of cybercrime. Malarski, as Master Splinter, keeps his profile careful and steady, helpful to members, reliable as an administrator. Building trust, the slow, methodical way that good undercover work requires. Max keeps attacking DDoS, infrastructure probing, aggressive recruitment campaigns, trying to pull DarkMarket's remaining users toward Carter's market. And while he is doing all of this, he starts paying close attention to Master Splinter. Something is wrong. He can't specify it at first. Just a feeling of misalignment, the sense that what he is looking at doesn't match the model he has built for what it should look like. Max was good at reading systems, and people, it turned out, are just another kind of system. He pulls the IP logs, cross-references login timestamps, maps the patterns of when and where Master Splinter accesses the forum, and then he finds it. An IP address, logged in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, traced back not to a server, not to a VPN, not to some anonymous relay, to an FBI field office. Max had just identified an undercover federal agent running a criminal forum in the middle of an active operation using nothing but logic and network forensics. He goes public immediately, posts his findings across every channel available to him, tells anyone who will listen. Master Splinter is a Fed. DarkMarket is a sting operation. Get out. For a moment, it almost works. Malarski's response is not panic. It is precision. He moves fast, gets WHOI's records quietly altered, removes the digital breadcrumbs Max had found. Then, in a move that requires either enormous courage or complete confidence in his cover, he goes on offense. He starts calling Max the snitch. In a world built entirely on paranoia about informants, this is a devastating counter. Malarski publicly accuses Iceman of being the federal plant of staging the whole forum attack as a law enforcement operation to consolidate everyone into one monitored platform. It is completely false. And it is perfectly calibrated. Because Max has credibility problems of his own. He worked with the FBI before that much is known in certain circles. And a man who forcibly absorbed 6,000 criminals into his platform has enemies willing to believe the worst. When Max's own lieutenants hold what amounts to an internal trial, laying out the IP logs and the Pittsburgh connection, most of the proof has already been quietly removed. The verdict comes back inconclusive. Malarski stays. His cover holds. DarkMarket continues operating with a federal agent at the controls for another 2 full years. Max had been right about everything, and it hadn't mattered at all. Think about what Max just did. He found an undercover federal agent through nothing but IP logs and login patterns. A man trained to be invisible, exposed by another man reading the digital trail he left behind. If a federal agent couldn't hide, what do you think your digital trail looks like right now? Your name, your home address, your phone number, old accounts you forgot about. Profiles from sites that don't even exist anymore. Leaked databases from breaches you never heard about. All of it sitting on the open internet, searchable, for sale, for anyone who goes looking. The real danger isn't elite hackers breaking into banks. It's ordinary scammers picking up a phone, already knowing your full name and the street you grew up on, calling from what looks like your bank, opening credit lines in your name. They didn't hack you, they just looked you up. That's why this video is sponsored by Incogni. Incogni pulls you off the internet, finding where your personal information is exposed on people, search sites, shady directories, leaked databases, old profiles, even AI answers, and sending legal removal requests on your behalf under real privacy laws like GDPR and CCPA. They don't do it once. They do it continuously, because this information keeps coming back. They're the first and only personal data removal service independently verified by Deloitte. With their new custom removals feature, you can send them any link where your data appears, and a dedicated privacy expert, a real person, not a bot, handles the removal personally. 30-day money-back guarantee. Use code LOOM at the link in the description to get 60% off an annual plan. Because they can't harm you if they can't find you. Now, back to Max. Because from this moment forward, the walls start closing in. And Max, who had outthought everyone at every step, is about to make the one mistake he can't recover from. By late 2006, the weight starts to show. Max Butler does something nobody in the underground expects. He announces his retirement. Not dramatically, not with a long farewell post, just a quiet handover. Carter's Market passes to a user called the 3 Corrupted 1. Iceman steps back, goes dark. The pressure has been building for months. The FBI is close. He can sense it the way you sense a change in weather before it arrives, not in any single data point, but in the quality of the atmosphere itself. The Master Splinter situation shook him more than he showed publicly, and somewhere in the back of his mind, the man who traced a federal agent through IP logs knows exactly how that same technique gets used in reverse. What Max doesn't know, what he couldn't have known, is that the 3 Corrupted 1 is already working for the Secret Service. He handed his empire directly to the people hunting him. Somewhere in Phoenix, on a Thursday morning in November 2006, a woman named Sandra opens her bank app while her coffee brews. Her checking account shows a balance of $14. She had $2,300 in it yesterday. She calls the bank. Fraud, they tell her. Someone cloned your card. Unauthorized withdrawals from 3 states over 48 hours. They'll start an investigation. It could take 4 to 6 weeks. She has rent due in 8 days. She doesn't know the name Max Butler. She doesn't know what Carter's Market is. She doesn't know that her card number has been bought and sold twice since it was skimmed from a restaurant in Scottsdale 3 months ago. She just needs the $2,300 back. Meanwhile, investigators do what investigators do. Pull the thread, slowly, patiently. They start at the bottom buyers, small arrests. Each one offered the same deal. Cooperate or face the full weight of what you've done. Most cooperate. Buyers lead to sellers. Sellers lead to administrators. Administrators lead to Christopher Aragon, Max's original partner, the former bank robber who kept meticulous records of every transaction, every contact, every business dealing he and Max had conducted together. Aragon cooperates, receives a reduced sentence. His records do the rest. Half a dozen more arrests follow. One of those arrested tells investigators something specific. Iceman lives somewhere in the Oakland and San Francisco area. That's enough. The FBI obtains a warrant to monitor every IP address connecting to Carter's Market. The logs show a cluster logins from the same residential block in San Francisco, coming from multiple IP addresses that all trace back to the same neighborhood. Max had been rotating connections, switching between networks, doing everything right. Except he kept coming back to the same apartment. In the quiet hours of 2007, sitting at his monitors in the dark, something registers in Max Butler that is not exactly guilt and not exactly fear, something more precise. He built Carter's Market by destroying the trust networks of 6,000 people, consolidated them by force, gave them no choice but to accept his platform or operate without infrastructure, which is exactly what the FBI did to him in 1998. Looked at his skills, decided there was a more useful arrangement, left him with a criminal record and a couch when the arrangement ended. He had become the thing that made him. Some mistakes you can feel coming. You just can't stop them. The 5th of September, 2007, San Francisco. 6 monitors. Cold coffee. Same apartment. Same screens. Same 3 a.m. quiet. Max Butler is at his computers, doing what he has done every night for years. When the door opens, Secret Service agents quiet. No chase, no confrontation. Just the thing he had been running from finally catching up with him in the only place he ever really lived. On his hard drives, approximately 5 terabytes of encrypted data. Forensic experts from Carnegie Mellon University's CERT division spend weeks working through it. What they find is the full architecture of everything he built. Records of intrusions into over 1,000 financial institutions. Credit card dumps by the millions. The complete operational history of Carter's market. Nearly 2 million card numbers. Fraudulent transactions, totaling $86 million. Losses spread across more than 10,000 banks worldwide. In February 2010, Max Butler pleads guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud. Judge Gary Lancaster sentences him to 13 years in federal prison, the longest sentence ever handed down for hacking charges in United States history. $27.5 million in restitution. 5 years of supervised release to follow. He makes a statement at sentencing. By all accounts, it's genuine. He doesn't minimize. He doesn't explain. He just says what he did and what it cost. One line, buried in the court record, plain and quiet. I thought I was building something better. I was wrong about what better meant. 7 years into his sentence, in 2014, Max gets hold of an illicit cell phone inside the federal penitentiary. Within weeks, he's running a new scheme: stolen debit card numbers pulled from the internet, money funneled out through fellow inmates. With 13 years already on the board, some people are built a certain way, and no sentence changes that. Here is what stays with you. The FBI trained him, used him, discarded him, handed him a criminal record and a skill set, then closed every door that might have let him use the skill set without the record. The skills they saw in him, and then cut him off from using legally. He turned on the only world that would still take him. He wanted order. Every major move came from the same impulse. He looked at a broken system and thought someone should fix it. He fixed it in the only direction available to him. He was a reformer on the wrong side of every law that existed. In the entire history of cybercrime, no one had thought to turn hacking tools against criminal infrastructure itself. Underground forums were considered neutral ground. Max looked at neutral ground and saw the most valuable target on the board. And by destroying DarkMarket, by wiping the servers of the one forum already compromised, he handed the FBI their perfect opening. Mularski stepped into the vacuum, ran DarkMarket as a federal operation for 2 full years, 59 arrests, $70 million in prevented fraud. The man who stole the criminal world accidentally helped the government clean it up. He even identified the federal agent running the operation. He was right. Nobody believed him. Time you see a story about a cyber criminal who built something enormous and lost it all, ask who handed them the tools in the first place. Ask what happens when someone tries to use those tools in the direction everyone agreed was legitimate, and what the world told them when it closed that door. That question doesn't have a clean answer, but it has a name, and it's Max Butler. Max Butler was the most technically sophisticated carder who ever operated at scale. But the man who actually wrote the book on carding, who turned it from street-level fraud into an industry with structure and standards and a professional vocabulary, was someone most people have never heard of. Someone whose name appears nowhere in the story you just heard, but whose work made everything in it possible. Next time.